Hello, readers. Welcome back to reading class. I am Miss Taylor. Nice to see you again. Alrighty. Let's see, are we ready to read? Do we have our textbook, a bookmark or a finger, workbook, pencil? Check. All right, some things to remember as we read. We're going to track along with our finger or a bookmark. We're going to look at each word carefully, and we're going to pay attention to end marks. We're going to enjoy the story. Alrighty, I am excited to learn what happens with Tim. Last time he learned to fly. He got up in the air. He made some mistakes, but that happens when we learn new things, doesn't it? So we're going to enjoy the story. Some of our goals we're going to read with accuracy and expression. We're going to understand what's happening in the story. We're going to make connections to characters and how they're feeling and what they're doing. All right. Reading is thinking. Look at all these things that are happening in our brains. This is just something for us to sort of keep in mind as we're reading about, am I making connections to the character? Am I kind of painting a picture in my mind of what it's like and what it looks like with Tim flying? Kind of imagining what he looks like, asking questions like, I wonder if it hurt when he made like a big splash in the water at the end of the last story. Summarizing, kind of thinking about what happened in that last story or what happened in this story. So last time, if we wanted to summarize last time, what would you say? What happened last time with Tim and Old Henry? Yeah, Henry taught Tim how to fly. He made some mistakes, but Tim was able to do it. And did he feel so proud of himself? Yes, he did. Alrighty, let's see. We're going to predict. Already, I'm kind of predicting. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking Tim might make a few more mistakes as he learns how to fly. And synthesizing, kind of bringing in new information. So actually our brains were always kind of synthesizing, taking in new information and kind of mixing it with what we already know. So we're getting to know more and more about our two characters, about Old Henry and Tim. And we're going to infer and kind of figure out what's happening. I wonder if Tim is going to feel embarrassed at all as he learns more about flying. Maybe we might have to look at what he says and kind of figure out how he's feeling. So sometimes we have to infer how characters are feeling and using the words that they say and their actions, how they act, to figure out, I wonder what they're really feeling. Alrighty, so in our reading lesson, we have part A, our vocabulary sentence and our word lists. So last time Miss Taylor forgot the vocabulary sentence. We have our word lists. We have our nonfiction passage. Today we're going to learn facts about the equator. Then we have our main story, our fiction story. We're going to learn about Tim and how he practices flying. We have some review items. We're going to do our workbook. We're going to read for 20 more minutes sometime throughout your day. All right. So here's our vocabulary sentence. It is, the horses became restless on the dangerous route. So students, what word tells about how you feel when you want to do something else? Restless, right? You can think of a time when you felt restless or you wanted to do something else. All right. And what word tells about how you get to a place? The route. Nice job. So our sentence is, the horses became restless on the dangerous route. Now your turn, ready? Nice job. Can you close your eyes and say it? The horses became restless on the dangerous route. Nice job. Alrighty, let's go ahead and we're going to look at lesson 5 in our textbooks. Facts about the equator. Here we go. So let's take a look at, this is page 15 in your textbooks. Let's take a look at our first column, column 1. All of these words end with the letter S. Word 1 is dangers. What word? Nice job. Something that's a danger to something is not safe. Icy roads are a danger. Let's see. Can you think of other things that would be a danger? If you got too close to like a cliff, ooh, that would be a danger. All right, word 2 is receives. What word? Word 3 is barns. What word? Word 4 is circles. What word? Word 5 is lakes. What word? Nice job. All right, let's try the fast way with column 1. Ready? Dangers. Receives. Barns. Circles. Lakes. Nice job. All right, column 2. So in column 2, we have part of each word is underlined. So we're going to read that first part first. So word 1, what's the underlined part? Fool. And what's the whole word? Foolish. Nice job. Something that is foolish is the opposite of wise. So what's the opposite of a wise choice? A foolish choice. Yeah. Sometimes my 5-year-old makes foolish choices. But sometimes when we're young, we can make some foolish choices. Usually when we get nice and old, like Miss Taylor, we make very wise choices all the time. Most of the time. Okay. What's the, oh, no, I'm just gonna move on. Let's see, word 2, underline part. Be, and the whole word, below. Word 3, underline part. Day, and the whole word, daytime. Nice job. And word 4, underline part. Un, and the whole word, unfrozen. Nice job. And let's go to column 3, word 1. What word? Trout. A trout is a fish. Maybe some of you have gone fishing and you know about these different kinds of fish. So trout is a fish. Word 2, what word? Spring. If a lion jumps at something today, we say the lion springs. If a lion jumped at something yesterday, we would say the lion sprang. It sprang on the other creature, its prey. Maybe, let's see, maybe you sprang on some cookies after dinner yesterday. Sprang. All right, word 3, what word? Route. Word 4, what word? Neck. And word 5, what word? Confused. Alrighty, nice job. Let's go to part B in our textbooks. Everybody, what's the title? Facts about the equator. Nice job. All right. So in today's story, we are going to learn about how Tim gets better at flying. But first, we have this information passage about the equator. So please look in your books, part B, facts about the equator. You've learned about the poles and the equator. Let's see how much you remember. How many poles are there? What are they called? It's the one at the top. North Pole, one at the bottom. South Pole, nice job. What do we call the line that goes around the fattest part of the Earth? Ooh, what's the answer? Equator. Good job. Where is the hottest part of the Earth? The equator. Right. Which parts of the Earth are the coldest? Minnesota. Oh, no. The pole, the North Pole, right? And the South Pole. The North and the South Pole. In other words, the poles are the coldest. But Minnesota's pretty cold. Alrighty. Let's see. The heat that the Earth receives comes from the sun. That's an important rule. The heat that the Earth receives comes from the sun. So where does our heat come from? The sun. Nice job. The equator is the hottest part of the Earth because it receives more heat from the sun than any other place on the Earth. So the equator is the hottest part of the Earth because it receives more heat than any other part of the Earth. The poles are the coldest places on the Earth because they receive less heat from the sun than any other place on the Earth. Make sense? So the poles are the coldest because they receive the least amount of heat from the sun. All right. Let's go ahead and look at part C. Here's our fiction story about Tim practices flying. And this is on page 16 in your textbook. Tim practices flying. I think he's going to get better. Do you think he's still going to make some mistakes, though? Me too. Do you think he's going to still have a positive attitude? Remember last time when he made a big splash when he landed? Did it really bother him? No, he had a really good attitude. He had a positive attitude. He was like, well, so what if I fell? I flew. I was able to fly. And he felt really proud of himself. So maybe as we're reading this, think about, again, when you first learned something, how did it feel? And also, how did it feel as you got better at whatever you were practicing? So I know for me, I mentioned last time when I was first learning yoga and some yoga poses, I was pretty bad at it, made lots of mistakes. But then as I practiced and I got better, and then I felt more confident and I felt more proud of myself, like, hey, I know how to do this. So I wonder if Tim's going to feel more confident. All right, Tim practices flying. The two geese spent most of the next 3 days flying. Most of 3 days flying. Tim needed the practice, and old Henry felt warmer when he was flying rather than swimming on that lake. There wasn't much room to swim anymore because most of the lake was frozen. Only small circles near the middle were unfrozen. All right, so they spent 3 days practicing flying. And Henry didn't mind practicing because it kept him warm. He was like, oh, I don't mind when I'm flying, I'm warm. And now most of the lake is frozen, so they're kind of running out of time. It must really be getting close to winter. So Tim practiced, and old Henry gave him directions. By the third day, Tim could land on land and in the water. He still had trouble taking off from the water, but he could do it. As the sun was setting on the third day, old Henry said, well, my boy, the lake will be completely frozen tomorrow. So tomorrow is the time for you to go south. Wow. So Henry knows that like by tomorrow, the lake is going to be completely frozen and Tim's going to have to go south. And again, I kind of imagine him as like a grandpa goose, like a nice grandpa. It's like, well, my boy, you got to get going. All right. Old Henry started to tell Tim how to get to Florida. The route was not simple. There were landing places about every 300 miles. Tim would have to land at each place and spend 1 or 2 nights. Then he would take off and go to the next landing place. So was the route to Florida pretty simple? No, it's not simple at all. And the landing places, how far apart were they? 300 miles. So he would have to fly 300 miles and land, stay there for 1 or 2 nights, fly 300 more miles and land, spend 1 or 2 nights, fly 300 more miles. It was kind of the pattern. All right. Old Henry started to tell Tim about each landing place, but Tim had trouble understanding the directions. Old Henry started out by saying, you take off from this lake and fly south and east. By about the middle of the afternoon, you'll come to a field that is next to a pond. The field has 2 barns. One is red and... Tim said, I don't know which way south is. Of course you do, Henry said. All geese know north from south. But Tim said. Oh, here we can pause. We can do some inferring here. So inferring is when we kind of figure things out, even though it's not really said in the story. So think about how Tim is acting and what he's saying as old Henry is explaining how to get to the first landing place. And Tim's like, well, I don't know which way south is. And Henry's like, of course you do. All geese know north from south. And Tim's like, but I. So we can infer, that kind of just is a fancy word for figuring out. We can figure out that Tim is probably feeling what? Kind of nervous, kind of scared, kind of unsure. He's like, well, I don't know. All right. Henry said, do this for me. Take off, go high and go in the direction that feels really good. So Henry's given him a little bit of a test. Like, I'm going to read that again. I made a little mistake. Henry said, do this for me. Take off, go high, and go in the direction that feels really good. Fly in that direction for a little while, and then come back here. Tim went up and circled around, and then he started flying directly south. Soon he came back and landed next to Henry. Henry said, you were flying south. All geese like that direction in the fall. In the spring, they like the opposite direction, north. All right, listen to that part again. Henry said, you were flying south. All geese like that direction in the fall. In the spring, they like the opposite direction, north. So it's kind of like the geese have sort of this instinct, this feeling inside them that they're born with, that in the fall, they just go south. That direction feels good to them. And then in the springtime, kind of have this instinct that they want to go north. So in the fall, what direction do they like? South. And what about in the spring? North. Nice job. Then Henry said, let's talk some more about the flight to Florida. The first stop is that field with the 2 barns. The next morning, you'll take off from that field, but you won't fly exactly south. You'll go a little to the east. Tim looked confused. He said, I'm not sure I can remember all this. I don't know how you can remember it. Old Henry said, oh, once you go to a landing spot, you'll remember it for the rest of your life. You'll know exactly how to get there and exactly what it looks like. So was Tim able to understand Henry's directions? No. And Henry said that once Tim went to a landing spot, something would happen. What was that? Yeah, he would remember that landing spot for the rest of his life. So he's saying, once you go to that place, you'll remember it forever. I wonder if you have a place that you have been to in your life that you think, I'm never going to forget that place. I always remember that place. Then Henry tried again to tell Tim about the landing places. But by the time Henry had explained how to reach the 3rd one, he could see that Tim was just about ready to start crying. And again, we can figure out Tim is confused and scared and nervous. And he's like, I'm not going to remember all this. Remember, he's less than half a year old. He's like a little 5-month-old goose. I'm sorry, Tim said, but I just can't keep all this straight. How many landing places are there between here and Florida? Old Henry said, 5. And Tim got a big tear in his eye. 5? I can't do it, Tim said. I'll never remember how to get there. Old Henry said, well, we'll figure out some way to get you there. All right. Oops, sorry. Should have turned that for you to see. All right. So Tim is sad. He didn't think he could remember all the directions and all the ways to get to these 5 landing places. So he's feeling really scared and confused and like, what are we going to do? So as Henry is just explaining how to get there, Tim is not understanding it. So it would be hard to remember the directions to those landing places if somebody just told you about them and you hadn't seen them. And Henry said, we'll figure out some way to get you there. What do you think Henry could do to make sure Tim finds the landing places? Do some predicting here. What do you think? I know I'm kind of predicting what might happen. Alrighty. What's next? So you're going to reread the story on your own one more time. You're going to answer the questions at the end of our story. And remember, you don't have to write them down, but you should know the answers to these questions. And then you're going to check your answers with mine on the assignment. There'll be a little answer key down at the bottom. And then you're going to complete your workbook. You're going to take a picture of it for Miss Taylor to check. And you're going to read for 20 more minutes. All right, so I hope you have a great rest of the day. And next time we will find out what happens with old Henry and Tim. Wonder what Henry's going to do to help Tim. All right, have a great rest of the day, and I will see you again soon. Bye.